I was browsing Amazon the other day when I came across an ocarina that looks frighteningly similar to the Night by Noble that we all know and love. I have this ocarina now, so I bought it. It's inside this bag. Let's review it now. First, the packaging is literally just a bubble wrap envelope. Inside, there's a really thin carrying pouch, and the ocarina itself is in a really thin plastic bag, which I can just rip apart and open right now. Here's the ocarina. As you can see, it looks very, very much like a Night by Noble. I mean, I think they literally used a Night by Noble to make their own mold. And it also comes with a rainbow colored neck strap. Interesting choice. This Night by Noble lookalike is $12 on Amazon, at least when I purchased it, and it comes in 10 colors across 2 Amazon listings, with each listing having 5 colors. I'm a fan of the variety of colors, but it's a little suspicious that it's on multiple listings. It is always suspicious when the same company has multiple listings for the same product. Something also worth noting is that on Amazon, it's listed as an ocarina for beginners and kids, yet it does not come with a fingering chart. That's no big deal, but if this is supposed to be somebody's first ocarina, you kinda need a fingering chart to teach them. Yes, someone can Google it, but think of the user experience. Someone's gonna open the bag and have no idea what to do, and most kids probably won't know how to Google ocarina fingering chart. So bad. But those are just my first impressions. Maybe this 12-hole ocarina in the key of C by Aestivate is actually good. I mean, it already seems to be copying the homework of the most reliable ocarina on Amazon, but what can you do? I've given this ocarina a fair shake of testing it out off camera. Here's a scale and a song. In terms of sound, this ocarina is actually pretty good. It's not as good as the Night by Noble, but the tone is pretty decent, not very airy, and it's in tune. That is something I've never been able to say about a $12 ocarina from Amazon, so I guess good job. The breath pressure is very similar to the Night by Noble. It's on the lower end of medium. If you blow too hard, you will squeak on high notes, but if you give it a little bit less breath than you think you need for like the high F, you'll have a very clear tone. Ergonomically, it's literally the exact same as the Night by Noble, but there are a couple issues in the quality of the build. If you look very, very closely, there's a little speck right here. You can see it right in front of my finger. It's like a little tiny pixel. I'll zoom in and post. This is sharp, and there are these little sharp specks throughout the build of the ocarina. So in terms of build quality, this is really shoddily made. If you run your finger along the seam of the ocarina, you can see a little like red glue or something, whatever they use to seal it. And like it is sharp. Like this little speck of red is sharp. These imperfections on the seam are sharp. And there's these imperfections all around the entire seam. So ergonomically, it plays just like the Night by Noble, but it's like a dangerous Night by Noble. At best, it'll be a little uncomfortable to hold if you touch the seams and whatnot. At worst, you could actually like cut your lips while playing on the little sharp spot sticking out. I'm going to assume that this is not how every model looks and is, but the fact that I got a model with such shoddy build quality is really alarming to me. Aside from the imperfections, aesthetically, this looks just like the Night by Noble, just without the matte finish. Like it is the exact same shape. If I put these instruments one in front of the other, the only difference in the shape is the mouthpiece. The one that we're reviewing has a much narrower and a little bit longer mouthpiece and a slightly different positioning for the neck strap hole, whereas the Night by Noble is a little bit broader and flatter all around. But otherwise, every contour on the body is almost exactly the same. This is just a guess, not an accusation, but I legitimately think this ocarina uses like a stolen mold or reverse engineered mold from a Night by Noble. Like, why else would it look so similar and be half the price? It makes no sense. There's another really telltale indicator that this is using a Night by Noble mold or reverse engineered mold. Using the Milt technique to get higher notes above the F on an Alto C ocarina, I have a very particular technique that works on all Night by Noble ocarinas. We're on the Night by Noble now, not the Aestivate, in case you were confused. To get the high A that you just heard, I have a particular technique that only works on Night by Noble. I've never gotten it to work on a different 12-hole Alto C, where basically I do the melt technique, thingamahoo's it, and then I press my 4 fingers down onto the holes, and that somehow makes it perfectly tuned for a high A. I don't know how it works, but it only works on my Night by Noble. Let's see if that works on the Aestivate. It's a lot airier and it can squeak, but it works. This is very clearly at least heavily inspired by the Night by Noble, if not a direct ripoff. This is all conjecture. I have no actual evidence other than what I've tested right here. But let's do a one-to-one comparison of their sound now. Yep. Here's some quick notes on the Aestivate versus the Night by Noble. The Night by Noble is like riding a bike for me. Like, it's the ocarina that I play the most because it's the ocarina I can take with me wherever I go because it's made of plastic. I have many hours on this ocarina because I can take it anywhere. So I'm very comfortable with it. And the Aestivate kind of feels like a bizarro alternate universe, worse version of the Night by Noble. The Aestivate, I can confidently say, is the Night by Noble, but much worse. In terms of sound, you get like 80% of the quality. Like, it's not horrible. The high notes are a little hard to get without squeaking, much harder than the Night by Noble. The biggest complaint people have about the Night by Noble is squeaking on the high notes. The Aestivate is that times like 5, but otherwise is actually like not bad in tune and sounds pretty good. But again, that's probably because they copied the homework of the Night by Noble. And the Aestivate does have a 1-up on the Night by Noble in terms of the color choice, but color choice alone should not determine whether you pick an ocarina. Build quality is significantly worse. It's legitimately dangerous to play if you cut your lip on the little sharp bits that are sticking out, and the seam is just so poorly put together. Like, in terms of sound, yes, it's decent, but there's so many cut corners on this ocarina, and all those cut corners would account for why it's only $12. Could you learn how to play the ocarina on this? Yes. It's in tune, it has pretty consistent breath pressure, the high notes aren't great, but it's a decent enough sounding ocarina that's decently in tune, and like, it's just not a horrible instrument in terms of sound. But it's so clearly a ripoff of the Night by Noble, and the Night by Noble does everything better. It's better made, it has a better sound, it has better high notes, you're not gonna hurt yourself while you play it, so the Aestivate is fine, I guess, but literally just get the ocarina that it's trying to copy, the Night by Noble. You'll be much better off. Yes, the Night by Noble is like $15, $20 more expensive, but I would much rather get an instrument that I'm 100% happy about, like the Night by Noble, instead of one that I'm maybe 70% happy about, like the Aestivate. The Aestivate ocarina right here is also very symptomatic of a bigger problem in the overall market for Amazon ocarinas. You see all those Ocarina of Time replicas for like $10, $20-ish that are made of ceramic and look really nice. And those ocarinas are all bootlegs of a mold made by STL. That's why it looks just like the STL Ocarina of Time. So there is a big problem in the online ocarina market of companies copying other companies and selling the product for much cheaper and at lower quality. You should only ever buy ocarinas from reliable vendors. I am buying this ocarina from an unreliable vendor to tell you to buy ocarinas from reliable vendors. Yes, this Night by Noble knockoff is better than your typical bootleg ocarina, but your typical bootleg ocarina is generally made of ceramic and much harder to get consistent tuning on. This clearly has very little quality control and very little like refinement for the user experience. Like with the literal rough edges and the sound that's like pretty much almost the Night by Noble, just not quite. If you have a good mold, it's a lot easier to get a plastic ocarina right than a ceramic ocarina. So a bootleg plastic version of one of the best plastic ocarinas, it's bound to be at least decent, but just get the original. Do not support companies that are potentially, allegedly, possibly, I'm not making any specific accusations, stealing from reliable ocarina vendors that actually make really good instruments. The Aestivate is decent, but do not get it. Get a Night by Noble instead. You'll be a lot happier. If you want more plastic ocarina content, watch my review of the recently released Alto C plastic Night by Noble. It's a really good instrument, but I don't think it's for everyone. You'll have to watch the video to find out why. Also, check out my Patreon, patreon.com/AndyCormier. There's some cool behind the scenes stuff there. Otherwise, leave a like, subscribe for more, comment your view on this ocarina. I'd love to know. Watch that video next, and I'll see you next time. Happy tootin'.